Okay, let's have a look at the graphite exporter for Prometheus and what graphite metrics look like, what we need for the connection server or connection server family, and how we get those into Prometheus. So first thing, I mean, if you just go have a look at the ThingWorx help centers, down here, I'm just going to have a look at the connection servers and come in here and just search for metrics. We'll probably, yeah, we'll find them at the bottom here, monitoring a connection server, and we've got this metrics section. And you'll see that, it's referring to Drop Wizard Coda-Hail configuring metrics to be sent to various connection servers. I guess we'll have a quick look at, there's basically a configuration parameter that needs to be set. Let's go have a look at that in the configuration file for the connection server in order to enable this. And then once we do have this, we're going to have these graphite formatted metrics that are going to be presented to us. We've got basic stuff about how the connection server is running, how many connections it has, what message rate. And the nice thing about this particular page about the connection server is that it's got these little stars beside it that tell you which ones are the critical metrics. So I would definitely refer to, even if you're interested in Azure IoT Hub, or eMessage connector, come in here and have a look at all these stars, because these are the ones, CPU, process time, process load, these are the ones that are going to be most relevant for connection server overall health. And from there, yes, you're going to also want to look at the IoT Hub aspects. I've already done that and gone through the IoT Hub ones and captured the ones that I think are most relevant and just kind of, pasted them into a list here so that we can see some of the JVM thread states, runnable, new, blocked, transmission rates to the platform, IoT, Azure IoT Hub messages, ingress messages. These are coming from the partitions, JVM, some egress. This is not necessarily a complete list. There's a ton of metrics that are available on there, but in any case, it's the ones that I have implemented to use in the dashboards. So let's first have a look at the configuration. Right, I mentioned the configuration in the connection server needs to be enabled in order for this to work. So okay, so if I come down to the bottom here, don't have what I want. So here you can see that I have this metrics section right here, enabling the metrics. I've got a couple of reporters, and normally you'd use the SLF4J reporter to get it out to the metrics out to a file. You can do that every 5 minutes or so. Challenge is obviously you're going to have really big files that can be built up significantly quickly, and parsing metrics out of files is going to be inefficient because you're going to have to transport them and you're going to have a lot of extraneous metrics that we don't want. So this is where we're going the path of using Prometheus locally, using the Prometheus exporter. We're going to take the metrics from Graphite. So here you can see that every 15 seconds, pushing these Graphite metrics to the Graphite Prometheus exporter that's running on the same environment here, localhost on 2003, and that is essentially going to get us a open metrics formatted endpoint that we can scrape afterwards. If we kind of go, can't remember what port that was, but we can look at the service configuration to see what port this is running on. It's called Graphite exporter service. So you can see here, similar to getting Prometheus up and running, this is even simpler. by default it's going to look for the configuration file in the path where it's got the binary, and I'm just providing the listen mask address 2003 because that's what is a standard port for listening on, and so we don't actually have the port that it's responding to, so we'll do sudo and so we've got the graphite exporter here that we can see is listening on 2003 for those graphite metrics, also 9108 for our Prometheus to come along and scrape it. So if we do a curl http localhost 9108, right, so it's telling us we need to be looking on /metrics, which is typically the default, and you can see there's quite the long list of all sorts of metrics that are coming in here, that the various message size, message meters, and everything that's going to be scraped by Prometheus. So I will say that it's also possible to have a configuration file. I don't think I have one in here. I am working on a configuration file where we can specify some of the configurations using graphite format expressions as well as regular expressions. Mapping configuration. So if we have a look at this mapping file, you will find this if you just do a web search for graphite exporter on Prometheus. But here you can see a couple of different rules where I've just taken the twx.star cx server jvm thread state star count, and this is going to be coming back over to what we saw in that help file over here, right? We've got the cx server jvm memory usage. So if I want to call out any particular metric, I can use just this format here in my mapping file to map the graphite format to a Prometheus specific format, or I can use a regular expression, which I've done here. And in a regular expression, you can add things like keywords and other specific searches. So this is how I'm getting those metrics scraped by Prometheus for graphite. And the one thing that we didn't look at yet was just the service setup. We saw the service file. This is obviously, so these are Go binaries. Prometheus uses Go, and they're Go binaries that need to be compiled typically. I have compiled for Linux and one for Windows, I believe, as well. But you need a Go compiler to get these things compiled, and then from there you can just, you know, I've put a simple script together that just creates a unit file here, does a daemon reload, and then enables it. There is another one for the Prometheus that even creates the Prometheus user that's going to be used so that these are running in appropriate user and group context.